June 10th, 2012, 8:38 a.m. A witness arrives at a scene of absolute carnage in Kibiku Forest, Ngong. The wreckage of a Eurocopter AS350 belonging to the Kenya Police Air Wing lies crumpled. Amid the small fires eating through the grass, something surreal is scattered in the dirt. Bundles of half-burned 1,000 shilling notes smoldering in the wreckage, and nearby lay the bodies of 6 people. Some of them so badly burned they were almost impossible to recognize. By 9:42 a.m., the country is paralyzed by news flashes.
And among those confirmed dead were Internal Security Minister and Presidential Aspirant Professor George Saitoti and the Assistant Minister Orwa Ojode. Also reportedly accompanying them were 2 bodyguards and 2 pilots.
We have lost here the Minister for Internal Security, Honorable George Saitoti, Assistant Minister for Internal Security, Honorable Orwa Ojode.
The press confirms who was on that flight. George Saitoti, the Minister for Internal Security and the man many believed was the next president of Kenya, is dead. Alongside him were his Assistant Minister Orwa Ojode, 2 pilots Nancy Gitwanja and Luke Oyugi, and 2 bodyguards Thomas Murimi and Joshua Tonkei. 6 lives extinguished in that tragic crash. But as the smoke cleared, the questions began to emerge. Was it an accident or a perfect political execution? To understand why this crash shocked Kenyans, you have to understand the man at the center of it. George Saitoti was not a typical politician. Born in the year 1945 in Kajiado, his journey was one of pure intellect. He was a mathematician of the highest order. From Mangu High School to Brandeis University in the United States, and finally to University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. There, he earned a PhD in algebraic topology. When he returned to Kenya in the year 1972, he was simply Professor George Saitoti. But in the year 1983, the academic was pulled into politics. President Daniel Arap Moi appointed him to parliament. In the same year, he was also appointed to the finance docket. It was the beginning of one of the most unusual political careers in Kenyan history. Saitoti's rise was swift. By the year 1989, he had become Vice President of Kenya, a position he will hold for 13 years, the longest tenure in the country's history. But with power came controversy. The Golden Bag Scandal, a fraudulent gold export scheme that drained billions from Kenya's treasury. Though Saitoti was later cleared by the High Court, the scandal followed him like a shadow for decades, and it taught him a brutal lesson. In Kenyan politics, the line between ally and enemy is written in disappearing ink. Now, let me take you back to February of 1990, one of the darkest months in Kenya's history. While the country was still reeling from the mysterious disappearance and murder of Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Robert Ouko, George Saitoti was fighting for his own life. He had been poisoned. After a meal, he suddenly collapsed. Doctors battled to keep him alive, but somehow he survived. The experience changed him forever. He became obsessed with security. At public functions, he refused to eat food unless it was tested first. Because Saitoti understood something many politicians never say aloud. In the Moi era cabinet, being vice president didn't make you safe. It made you a target. By the year 2012, Saitoti had become one of the most powerful figures in Kenya. As Minister for Internal Security, he controlled some of the country's most sensitive intelligence. And he was preparing a run for presidency, but he was also carrying something dangerous, a dossier on drug trafficking networks operating in Kenya. Parliamentary debates at the time mentioned several high-profile figures.
I have been informed the following are the honorable members. Suspected. Honorable Buvi himself. Yes, Mr. Speaker. That's what there is. Honorable Joho, Honorable Mwau, and Honorable Kabogo.
Ali Hassan Joho, William Kabogo, Harun Mwau, and Gideon Mbuvi, popularly known as Mike Sonko. All of them denied the allegations and were never convicted.
It is very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that he had to rely on gossip just to tarnish our names.
Children who are reading a newspaper today at the age of 8, 9, 10, and they are seeing my name or my picture in the television saying that I'm a drug peddler. Even when they are 30 years, 20 years from today, they will be viewing me as such. Then the House must protect my integrity and those of others.
And request that the minister does apologize to members of the House that he mentioned and clears their names, Mr. Speaker.
He should name the real drug barons, who some of them are sons of senior and top cabinet ministers in this house.
But Saitoti's office was reportedly preparing a report that could expose powerful networks. And politically, he had become a major obstacle. Removing him could silence both a rival and whatever secrets he carried. Two days before the crash, Saitoti was in Mombasa. During a speech, he warned,
If we descend into the depths of violence, as we did in the aftermath of the last elections, the world will give us no second chance.
That night, something strange happened. He was booked into room 213 of Mombasa Continental Resort, but he never slept there. Instead, he secretly checked into another hotel and handed the room key to his bodyguard, Joshua Tonkei. Tonkei's signature appears on the final invoice, not Saitoti's. What exactly was he avoiding? Okay, let's go back to June 10th, 2012. 8:32 a.m. The helicopter lifts off from Wilson Airport. The aircraft is a Eurocopter AS350 B3E, registration number 5YCDT, one of the newest helicopters in the Kenya Police Air Wing fleet. It had entered service only months earlier and had accumulated barely a few hundred flying hours. The destination, Dhiwa, Homa Bay County, where Saitoti and Ojode were scheduled to attend a church fundraiser.
Good morning, Falcon 230.
Falcon 230, go ahead. We are ready to lift off. 6 on board, 3¼ hours. Destination, Dhiwa.
The weather is calm. Visibility 8 kilometers. Nothing unusual.
Falcon 230 surface wind is calm. Clear lift with a left turn out.
Clear lift, left, turn out Falcon 230.
Falcon Airborne 32, next report zone out. Next zone, Falcon 230.
At 8:35 a.m., the helicopter climbs smoothly to cruising altitude. just over 7,000 feet. The control tower at Wilson Airport receives the routine radio call.
Tower Falcon 230 will be checking zone out in next 1 minute.
Falcon 230 118.5. Center 118.5. Good day, sir.
Good day.
The tower acknowledges. Seconds later, the aircraft disappears from communication. No distress call, no warning. Then, something strange happens. Radar data later shows the helicopter suddenly turning. Instead of continuing west toward Kisumu, it begins drifting back toward Nairobi. Inside the cockpit, silence. Investigators will later determine that for nearly 3 minutes, there were no pilot inputs at all, no attempt to stabilize the aircraft, no emergency maneuver, just a helicopter flying forward with no one in control. At approximately 8:37 a.m., the helicopter clips the top of trees before slamming into the ground. The impact ruptures the fuel system. A fireball erupts. The helicopter explodes. Within seconds, flames engulf the wreckage. All 6 people on board are killed instantly.
Falcon 220, standby, departure.
It is reported the aircraft has gone down and we need to get there fast.
Confirm details of, correction, the point where the aircraft crashed.
We understand it is Kibiku area. We're trying to, well, we'll give you the details when we get there.
The first people to reach the crash site were not investigators. They were local villagers and farmers from Kibiku. They had heard the explosion. Some thought it was thunder. Others thought it was a bomb. Within minutes, residents rushed into the forests. What they found was horrifying. The helicopter had shattered on impact. Pieces of twisted metal were scattered across the clearing. The smell of burning aviation fuel filled the air. Small fires burned in the grass. The heat was intense. Everyone could see the bodies, but many were burned so severely they were barely recognizable. Police officers and Kenya Wildlife Service rangers soon arrived. The area was sealed off. By mid-morning, investigators from the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority were already on site. But even before the investigation began, rumors were spreading across the country. By midday, specialized recovery teams arrived. The bodies had to be removed carefully. The wreckage was still smoldering. Forensic teams documented every fragment, every piece of metal, every personal item. One by one, the bodies were recovered, placed into body bags, and loaded into waiting vehicles, and then transported to Lee Funeral Home in Nairobi. There, a team of government pathologists prepared for autopsies. At the Lee Funeral Home, the autopsies revealed the most chilling anomaly. The bodies showed a distinct cherry-pink discoloration. In forensics, this is a sign of carbon monoxide or cyanide poisoning. Toxicologist Joyce Wairimu found that pilot Luke Oyugi had 68.6% carboxyhemoglobin level. At 60%, a human is dead or deeply unconscious. This raised a disturbing possibility. Were the pilots incapacitated before the crash, or did the fire itself cause these readings? Public outrage forced the government to act. A commission of inquiry was formed. It was chaired by Justice Kalpana Rawal. For months, investigators examined every detail. Pilots, mechanics, air traffic controllers testified, and slowly disturbing irregularities began to surface. One of the most troubling discoveries involved the pilots themselves. Normally, VIP flights in the police air wing were handled by the most experienced pilots in the unit. But for that particular flight, there had been a last-minute change. The originally expected experienced VIP pilots were replaced. Instead, the flight was assigned to Nancy Gitwanja and Luke Oyugi, both qualified pilots, but with limited flying hours on the powerful AS350 B3E model. Experts later testified that the aircraft required very experienced handling, particularly during emergency situations. The question investigators struggled with was simple. Why were the most senior pilots removed from such a high-profile flight? Then, another irregularity emerged: maintenance. The helicopter had recently been serviced by Aristide Lumumbu, a Congolese engineer. But investigators discovered something alarming. Lumumbu did not possess a valid Kenyan authorization from the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, meaning legally he should never have been allowed to work on the helicopter at all. The commission questioned how a foreign engineer without proper certification was permitted to service one of the most important aircraft in the police fleet. Dr. Amritpal Kalsi, one of the pathologists, later testified that she had been ordered not to release certain details or photographs from the autopsy. The instruction came from the chief government pathologist, Dr. Johansen Odwor.
I was only called by our senior most colleague, Dr. Johansen Odwor, and he mentioned that we were not supposed to divulge any information, including photographs or the notes, or tell anybody about anything, and he had been given this information by NSIS.
He claimed he was acting on orders from the National Intelligence Service. And when investigators requested blood samples for further testing, the government chemist gave a strange reply. The samples have dried up. When the Rawal Commission finally released its report in the year 2013, the conclusions shocked many Kenyans. The crash, they said, was the result of multiple systemic failures. First, the helicopter itself. Investigators discovered that the manufacturer had installed a prototype engine monitoring system before delivering the aircraft. This device, known as the Vehicle Engine Monitoring Display, was supposed to warn the pilots of engine problems. But the version installed in the police helicopter was not fully certified. The commission ruled that installing it without proper approval was a serious irregularity. Second, the procurement process. The police had purchased the helicopter through a restricted tender process that bypassed several procurement regulations. Investigators said safety evaluation had not been adequately conducted. Specifications had been altered during the purchase. Some components were even replaced after inspection. The commission recommended that those responsible for the procurement be investigated. Third, the flight itself. The commission concluded that the pilots lost situational awareness while flying in poor visual conditions. The helicopter was also slightly overweight. Combined with limited visibility and possible pilot incapacitation, the aircraft drifted off course. Then, it descended directly into the forest. But the report did not find evidence of sabotage. The final report was 166 pages of maybe and should have. It blamed the weather, it blamed the pilots, it blamed the manufacturer. Yet, for many Kenyans, the report answered some questions but raised many more. Why were toxicology samples later reported to have dried up? Why were some autopsy findings never publicly released? Why did a police officer use the minister's recovered phone for weeks? And why did the helicopter fly for 3 full minutes without pilot input? Even today, investigators cannot fully explain what happened inside that cockpit. Those final moments remain a mystery. 6 people entered that helicopter, but no one knows what happened inside it during its final minutes in the sky.